YouTube. It's Brittany and her goddess here on the tube and elsewhere. I'm showing up to clarify some higher information that seems to be mixed up. I'm looking for channels that clear it up as close as possible, if not on the money. But biases do come through, and followers of different faiths, it's not the same as an experiencer. And so that's these are who I'm looking for. This is who I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that are experiencers that may have come from a faith. You don't have to have come from organized religion, but an experiencer is going to have a different perspective than someone that's just going off a text. All right. So that said, commentary on the interwebs about what is the difference between angels and demons. How can you tell? Because the bottom line is that to a human, they just do extraordinary things. And both can frighten you or piss you off. And you being frightened or pissed off doesn't stop the process. So, a difference is this is a chicken or the egg conversation. This who came first conversation. Angels first. The demons are still higher than humanity, though. And that's the confusing part. It's like people try to put what is considered or who is considered demonic below humans, and it's just like no, they just are a representation. They're representing for the worst of humanity. Everything that we can witness is an emanation of the force. God, the force. So coming from the force, there's the first emanations, the closest to the force, which seems unusually unhuman. Then there's really good humans, and then there's a descent into nonsense. These stories about the Titans, I'm thinking of Hercules right now. The Titan stories, the giants, those are stories about the mix of who would be considered angel and human, what that made, and that humans, regular humans that hadn't gotten done up, hadn't gotten the sex down, regular humans freaked out because those superhuman humans didn't have the don't operate under the same rules, don't care for the same rules, but just genuinely just don't operate under the same rules. So running amok with power or being extraordinarily something or other is what occurred. But why do we have stories like Gilgamesh and Hercules? Why do we have that? Because not everybody was a terror. Not everybody is a terror. Akhenaten. Not everybody is a terror. But are there terrorists with powers? Yeah. Why are they allowed to run amok? Because God, as the human can conceive, has care for for all creatures, all beings. And so it's like your babies. If you have if you have a bunch of babies and your babies are fighting, do you break it up or do you let them fight a little bit? How much do you let them fight? At what point does it go past playing and into damage? That's a God observation of when things have gotten too far. And what we assess in our human experience as damage is not the same as what God, the Force, recognizes as damage. So yeah, they're fine. Let them play. It'll be all right. But whether you got siblings or don't have siblings, you know the experience of heck, just being a kid, whatever. You know the experience of when someone, uh, it might look like they're playing, but they're actually trying to tear you up. It might look like y'all are playing, but you're losing. You're losing the fight. You're getting beat up. So, um, and depending on like whose turn it is, whatever. It's like you might yeah, help, and that might be the time where it's said like no, like you gonna have to tough it out, and that's a kind of parenting. That's a moment in parenting, or a parent steps in and breaks it up. But in this discussion that I witnessed, this chit chat about, oh, there's a battle between the angels and the demons for human souls. first of all, you're sovereign. You truly are your own. That is your gift. That's a gift that can never be taken from you. Demons! And just like as the siblings fight and whatnot, the demons will have you convinced that you don't have any power and that you actually need to help them, work with them. You're attached to them. You need their help. You must have their help. There's a difference between you need my help versus I am offering you some help. I am offering you some assistance. Or you asked for help. Here it is. I know you don't understand what I'm doing, but here it is. You ever, like you get a wound, you get some sort of owie, and, uh, and what a person does, they put on like some alcohol or some peroxide, whatever, and it burns, burns. But what they're doing is cleaning a wound. So you can either get your wound cleaned out, or you can let it fester. The gravel in it, and it's going to keep hurting, and it's going to get worse. Or let it hurt for a second and get better. The demon is who pushed you in the gravel. So that's the difference. If we're sitting here doing an analogy. But as a human, this is something that has been expressed in different traditions, that the goal is for your awareness of God force in you. Just like you can look at, this is why I love looking at different kind of animals, because they're so interesting. uh, and they may or may not be aware of how they look. But at any rate, we are made to get to the point where we can create a whole experience of people, just like how we're doing right now. And just like the story with humans, that there was some that think we're a waste, that we're trash, that we are a mistake, we are a mess, and so should be destroyed. Let's start over with the humans. And uh, some are just like, no, they're all right. I keep working with them. Just need a little bit of refinement. That's what's happening with the AI, the robots. And this has been a long time coming. Why do we make dolls? Most people are okay with dolls. You don't think of that as a tiny human, but that's what it is. That is a human representation or an animal representation. You're making it. Whoop whoop. Um, Robots, the AI stuff is the next step. Have it be able to do things where it's not unexpected for the doll to move or for there to be a sound or whatever. You expect the robo to respond to you. You program responses out of this amount of information. Here's your options for a response. There's varying degrees of desire for surprise there. Some people want to know exactly, like, I know what the robo is going to say. And that is terrifying if the robo surprises you with action, with words. But what do you think? That's humans have been doing. We were programmed with a range of potential responses. But out of all the potential responses over time, we uh, start freestyling, putting things together in interesting ways. In some ways, that could be expected, like, aha, okay, so humanoid put together this, that, and the third, and came up with that. All right. But it still was unusual. It was within your power to put it together that way. But there's some things that it's just like there's only so much that you can do that you are consciously aware of that are within option. Just like in terms of movement, you look at animals that walk on four legs. There's animals that hop around, animals that swim. As humans, we can walk, we can run, we can jump, we can crawl, but we don't fly around. We can jump really high, but we don't fly around. We don't slither across the ground. We can do that motion, but we don't really get very far. So within within range of responses is what we're working with. So for people to think that, like, oh, we're living in a prison planet and we've got to escape, there's some confusion on the what and the how. For you to receive the thought that you are trapped and you're being controlled, yes, there is an awareness that you are operating under some sense of slavery and control, and it is below the highest. Accurate. But the escaping, it is through awareness. It's a consciousness escape. Because just as there's a sense, yeah, there's a sense that, like, out there is higher, out there is above this, beyond this. Out there is sometimes where higher consciousness is physically located. But the conscious part, the figuring things out part, you can do from where you're located, or you wouldn't be in that location. I may have to read this one Broham's book. Why is this coming up in my head? Well, I'll share since I'm in the vibe. But there's a Broham. His name is like Damien something. But the Broham, supposedly he was on death row, and not Death Row Records, but Death Row, like in the Who's Gal. And he got into magic. He got into like some occult stuff, some mysterious stuff. And now he's out living his life. And maybe he's written more than one book. But he teaches. I hadn't read the book because I was on a spree of being like, I gotta get back to the brown people magic. But that's come up. So I'm sharing that intel. No matter what place you're in, and I had just done a video on the purposes of magic. Being stuck is a major reason. I think that it's interesting that there was Houdini that would like willingly submit to chains, like all sorts of stuff to show that he could get out of anything, no matter what kind of restrictions, he can get out of it. And we could take that as inspiration. Anybody that has managed to find their way out of stuff. I'm thinking of Buddha, how his dad didn't want him to witness hardship. And that sounds nice. That sounds nice. Like, oh, he wants him to only know a royal life. But the thing is, witnessing strife does more than put you in a bad mood or a sad mood or make you depressed. It also makes you aware of what actually needs to change. It makes you aware of the range in life and the sacrifices, the compromises that are made for you to live. It's like there's numerous names coming up in this one, but okay, I'm gonna keep going. T.I. had a show called Family Hustle. And years ago, when this was on, one of the things T.I. did was he took his kids to the hood, which wasn't too far, but he said, "Listen, we're getting in the bus, we're going to the hood. Because y'all kids don't know what I've hustled to get us out of." And through that experience, the intention was for them to have an appreciation for what he does and some understanding of where people are coming from. Teaching goes in different ways. And there's there's gentle teaching of like I'm gonna expose you a little bit to things, or I'm gonna tell you about some things. And there's some harsh teaching of like you defy me and you're gonna learn today. You've earned an op if you defy me. No, thank you, Jafar. Yeah, from Aladdin. Jafar wanted to be Sultan. And the answer was, you bow or he's going to get you. And the lesson in that was really you have to be stronger than him, smarter than him, have to be able to outwit him, because I'm thinking about how interesting it is that he got his genie power at the end of that movie from Genie. Genie made him into a genie. And Genie's rules that he was operating with and like operating under was that he can't destroy Jafar. There's a question mark that could he have broken that rule, or was that a rule that he just believed in? What would have happened if he broke that rule? Could he have? But anywho, that's interesting, because then the same rule that, well, under the same set of rules that Genie was under, that then Jafar, after he was turned into a genie, he's beholden to the lamp. Lamp being symbolic of like wisdom. Point is, okay, this was a meandering. That was a little bit of a meander, but it's all right. Bringing it back around. Everybody is operating within limitations. We are all here to progress. This is why I say you gotta judge it for yourself. If pain and struggle and difficulty and shame and guilt are something that you feel are necessary, then that's the sphere that you are working under. That's you. Everybody doesn't want that. Some people want peace and joy and happiness and abundance and calm or excitement, thrills, beauty. So, um, judge yourself. And stay oriented with what is aligned with you. one more detour. Example in the movie Thumbelina, which is one of the lesser known Disney movies. But in Thumbelina, um, she got kidnapped. So, but that's neither here nor there for where I'm going with the point of this. The point is, a beetle found her, and the beetle thought she was beautiful, even though she's a human. She's a person. She's a tiny person, hence the name Thumbelina. No bigger than a thumb. She was a very small person, and she was on a journey because it's just like her prince was supposed to come back, and her prince is a fairy. So even though she didn't have wings, he's just like, well, maybe one day you'll have some. And I think you're beautiful. You are so beautiful. So anyway, uh, she's thrilled. She's just like, I'm trying to get back to my house or wherever. I'm trying to be found by my prince. I got places to go. But a beetle finds her, and he thinks she's beautiful. And he's like, I want to take you to the beetle ball. She's like, I'm not a beetle. He's like, no matter. He dresses her up as a beetle to pass her off in front of the rest of the beetles as a beetle, because he's like, certainly, if they see her this way, they'll love her too. She's gonna make me a lot of money, actually. She looks great. She look even greater as a beetle. But at the performance, as she's performing as like a beetle queen, he spins her around or whatever, dances with her, and her beetle costume falls off. And now everybody laughs at her and calls her ugly. Now, in what realm of imagination is a person, is a beautiful person ugly? It's like, well, to beetles. Freaking beetles. Who thinks that beetles are attractive? Oh, they're beetles. And I think that's why this was illustrated in the movie, because beetles will find other beetles attractive. But isn't that interesting that they thought she was the most beautiful of them all while she had a costume on, thinking she looks better than all of them, but she wasn't a beetle. So I take from this that when you're considered bad, you just might be being judged by those that are different from you. Plenty of us would say, ew, yuck, beetles. But again, we're not beetles. Um, yeah, I think that's about all I need to say about that. The judgment has much to do with the judger. So if you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate you. I'm sending lots of love your way, many blessings on the journey, and I'll see you in the next one.